All right, this is the beginning of the chapter 3, module 7 actually, on the states of consciousness, consciousness in the two-track mind. So this is the beginning of notes, and so this is talking about cognitive neuroscience. Now, if you know what the word cognitive means, cognitive is talking about thinking. And so cognitive neuroscience is going to be looking at how we think and how we process things. So first thing that we have to talk about is the idea of does the mind exist separate from the body? Now that sounds like a weird question, but the psychologists that have, and the philosophers that have studied and thought about this particular question over time, they don't mean that literally we're going to take the mind and separate it from your body and that you're going to live. No, they don't expect that. What they mean is that it's kind of like they almost envision the mind as being almost like your soul, okay, if you can think about it that way, and your body is your physical presence, and your mind is like your soul. It's the the theoretical aspect of you. The idea of you when you die, where does your mind or your soul go? Well, there are some people that are what we call dualists, and dualists believe that the mind exists separate from the body. And so, like I said, this is the idea that it's almost like your soul and the way you think, and your body is more of kind of a reflexive action, and that's your physical being, but your mind is kind of, it's in your brain, obviously, but it's your personality and how you think and how you feel and how you process things, which is not, they say, dualists are saying that this is not necessarily the same as your brain and your specific body. So some believe that they are made of different substances, and so some believe that René Descartes actually believed that the mind was a different substance than the actual body. So this is kind of a little fuzzy thing to try and conceptualize here. Distinctly opposite of that is going to be the monists. The monists believe that the mind and body are different aspects of the same thing. And so they're basically saying that, okay, you're just having two words for the same object, okay? Same idea as when we, at my house, when we have pasta for dinner, my kids ask, okay, what are we having for dinner? I say pasta. My husband says noodles. It's the same thing. Okay, monists believe the same. There's you're talking about the same thing. Okay, so they say it's the two different levels of the same thing. They're saying, it's your body, it's your brain, it's your mind. You're talking about two different names for the same basic principles, same basic idea. The other idea is that some people say that it doesn't matter if you're a dualist or a monist, everything is going to be going away anyways, and that there's this idea that an alternative to the problem of does your mind exist separate from the body is this idea of reductionism, and that eventually everything is just going to become biological. And this kind of makes sense if you think about the chapter that we just finished with that whole biology of the brain and mapping the brain and what parts of the brain are responsible for different actions and different functions and different ways that you think and feel. And some people say that, because of technology today, that by the time, in the future, we're going to be able to map the brain so much that we're going to be able to determine that this part of the brain is responsible for this part of your personality and this part's responsible for this, and so on and so on. And so they said it wouldn't really matter, if it exists separate from the body or not, because it's all going to eventually be biology. So I have a couple of pictures, and I have this picture of this Zen guy, and the little guy on the top, you can kind of think of that as the mind, and then this is his physical being, so that's his body, so the mind existing separate from the body. I also have this picture. It says, ha, ha, aha. So the body really does rule the mind, and so it's this stick figure guy, and I don't know if you can see that there's this little head on the ground. So he is talking to the head. And then I have this one that says, I think, therefore I am. He says, I'm here because I'm here? What? Because this is the mind, this is the body. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Now, in your book, they talk about something called dual processing. And dual processing is the idea that information is processed at both an unconscious and a conscious level. So this is the idea that your brain is taking everything in, okay? But you are only focusing on your attention, your conscious level of processing on what you are actually doing right now. So you're sitting there listening to me, and so you're concentrating on what I'm saying. You're watching the video, you're taking some notes, but you're not really paying attention to the other things that may be going on around you. For example, if you're quiet, you could probably hear it. I am sitting here, and while I'm talking, the air conditioner flipped on, and so if you can hear it, it's kind of loud. You may not have been noticing it before, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, because it came in while I was talking, but that unconscious level, you're processing it, but you're filtering it out because, okay, that's not part of what she's trying to tell me, so I'm not paying attention to that. Or maybe there's somebody around you, other people around you that are talking. And if you are trying to pay attention to this, you're not really listening to what they have to say. And that's kind of going through your unconscious level. Your brain is still processing it, but you're filtering it out. So, kind of an example of this was an experiment that was done by a psychologist where he looked at two particular groups. He specifically looked at two groups. He broke them down into a group that he gave kind of a bunch of rude words. These are rude and mean words on the left here. And then he gave another group a bunch of nice, polite words. These are the nice, polite words. I like the little picture because it's, you know, this little elementary school poster that they put in their classrooms and things. So what they did was that it was this guy named Herman Witkin, and he, oh, I'm sorry, wrong guy, not Witkin. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I forgot his name. I had to look it up. Goes to show. It was Bra and Chartrand. That's who it was. Bra and Chartrand. They were the ones that took a look at this, and what they did was they basically gave these two different groups exposure to these kinds of words. And so it wasn't explicit, it was just, you know, this group is exposed to rude words and this other group, Group B over here, is exposed to some polite words. And then what they did was they said, okay, now they're going to send them out to another individual, a third party, and they said, okay, will you go to this third party over here and will you go and talk to them and ask them, I need something from them. Will you go ask them for this piece of paper or for this object or whatever? It doesn't really matter. That's not the point. So this would be, for example, if, you know, I'm exposing you to one of these, either the rude words or the polite words, and then I go send you down to the office and I say, okay, will you go talk to Mr. Riley and he has this paper for me. Will you go get this paper for me? Okay, so you go down to Mr. Riley, and Mr. Riley is standing there talking to someone. Now, what Bra and Chartrand was looking at is that how likely is it that now that you've been exposed to either the rude words or the polite words, that you then go and interrupt the person that you're supposed to be talking to. So for example, if you go down to Mr. Riley and he's talking to someone and, you know, you just go up in his face and say, hey, Mrs. Stout needs you, she wants this, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Or are you more likely to stand there and wait or say, excuse me, Mrs. Stout said that I'm supposed to come down and get this. Okay? So what they were studying is that the likelihood of you coming in and interrupting somebody. The interesting thing is that these words, these phrases that they were exposed to, like I said, it wasn't overt, they weren't told what they were going to be doing with it, but as you can imagine, those people that were exposed to the rude words were much more likely to go and interrupt someone, compared to people that were exposed to just the polite words were much more likely to use polite words to interrupt or to wait patiently for the person to be done. So it was kind of a very interesting study about dual processing and that idea that even though these words were given them at an unconscious level, it affected their conscious actions and behaviors later. All right, that's all I wanted to say in this video. We will talk more about the states of consciousness and specific attention in the next video. Thanks.